How's it going, everybody? This is Manny from LowTech. Today we're going to be looking at emulation on the GPD Win Max. We're going to be specifically looking at harder to run consoles, specifically 3DS, Gamecube, PS2. We're going to briefly talk about PS3. Before we get into the gameplay, I want to cover the settings I used and what emulators I used. For PS2, I used PCSX2 1.6.0, and I went with PS2's native resolution. For Gamecube, I used the Dolphin emulator, version 5.0-13603. I had all games running at 2x resolution. For 3DS, I used the Citra Nightly build 1696, and I was at 3x resolution. For PS3, I used the latest version of RPCS3 as of a handful of days ago. And a quick note, pretty much any console generation earlier than what we're testing here today is fully playable on this device. As you see on the screen right now is PS1. Before this I was playing Dreamcast. They're all running at full speed, no issues. So because this device has been out for a while, I'm not doing a full-blown review. That's why I'm just going straight to emulation. I do like it though. I do like the layout, the analog sticks, the fact that you can use it also as an actual laptop. So yeah, it's a great device, and it just has emulation written all over it, so I had to get my hands on this, because hey, I love game console emulation right in your hand. Before we get into the gameplay, if you enjoy the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like and subscribe button for me. That way you can help support the channel, help keep these videos coming, and that way you also won't miss out on any of this emulation goodness. Quick note as we go through the video, if you're wondering what backend I used for each game, you'll see it in your top left. Up next is Automodelista. And if you're a fan of ETA Prime, you know this is one of the games he uses to test just about everything. And we're going through the spot where we start to slow down, and I'm doing real terrible, but good sign, we're not getting any slowdown, still holding at 60 FPS. Mario Kart Double Dash pretty much holds at 60 FPS. There will be moments when you drop a few frames and you get an ever so slight stutter every once in a while, depending on what's going on, but overall plays very well. F-Zero GX is one of those demanding GameCube games. As you just saw, we definitely had a major frame drop and slowdown. It caught back up, and it is holding around 60 FPS. It's not 100%, but still overall runs pretty good. Kirby Air Ride will also drop in frame rate every so often, depending on what's going on in the screen. Overall, I wouldn't say it ruins the experience. You're not playing 100% the whole time, though. Quick note when looking at the FPS for Super Mario Sunshine, this game originally was 30 FPS at its max, so 25 FPS, we're not running at full speed, still running pretty good. There is a slight lag in the audio, but overall still a good playable experience. I love Metroid. I love the Metroid Prime series. It runs great. Enough said. I also got Metroid Prime 2 to run fantastic, but I had to use a Vulkan backend. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door runs 100% full speed. So I already knew what I was in for trying to run Rogue Squadron 2 on this, based on what I've already seen on YouTube and the fact that it's an extremely demanding game. This running terribly did not shock me at all, but I wanted to give it a try for myself, play around with the back ends and the settings. Nothing I did got this game to run even remotely playable. The Win Max cruises right through Soul Calibur 2, pretty much steady at 60 FPS. You will dip every now and then to about 57, but overall, solid performance. Super Smash Bros. Melee pretty much stays at a steady 60 FPS. Occasionally you might drop to about 57 FPS. But overall, again, solid experience. Win Max is just cruising through this. So Star Fox Assault, you got a lot of stuff going on in screen most of the game, so at times you will dip down to about 55 FPS, but for the most part you still stay steady at about 60 FPS.
Cornelia Army now commencing third volley of cannon fire, and Rox's ships are being...
The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess is another game that originally only ran at 30 FPS. So here it is running at full speed. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker also runs at a max of 30 FPS, so here it is running full speed. Next up is 3DS, looking at Animal Crossing New Leaf. Doesn't run at full speed all the time. One quick note to remember though, I am upscaling this all the way to 720p, so that's 3x, so probably could improve performance by lowering that. Dead or Alive Dimensions ran pretty solid, didn't dip below 55 FPS the entire time I tested it out.
Never defeat me.
Donkey Kong Country Returns 3D struggled. We were anywhere from 35 to 40 FPS. Mario Kart 7 is a playable experience, but you're not going to get full speed, 60 FPS the whole time. It did dip for me all the way down to about 40 FPS at times. New Super Mario Bros. 2 hovered right around 60 FPS. You dipped down to maybe 58 at times. Overall, great experience. Paper Mario Sticker Star, although hovering at about 40 FPS average, still was a very playable, enjoyable experience. Super Mario 3D Land did have some stutters, did have some slight slowdowns. Still, overall, I would definitely consider it playable, but for some of you, it may be just not acceptable, and you might have to skip this one. Super Smash Bros. For 3DS can't really stay consistent based on what's going on, so I would consider this game unplayable. You're going anywhere from 60 FPS all the way down to 30 and back up again. Tekken 3D Prime Edition ran anywhere from 54 to 60 FPS the entire time I tested it out. Definitely a fully playable experience. Yoshi's New Island also ran in the 50s, did not dip below about 53 FPS, definitely a fully playable experience. Moving on to PS2 using the PCSX2 emulator, Battlefront 2 runs at solid 60 FPS.
We've lost control of the command post.
I do love Star Trek Voyager Elite Force. It is one of my favorite games, and I'm happy to report that it runs at a solid 60 FPS. Cabela's Dangerous Hunts, also sitting at a solid 60 FPS. Gran Turismo 3 also ran at about 60 FPS. It would dip down to about 58 every so often, but overall stayed at a steady 60 FPS. Medal of Honor Frontline also ran very well. I stayed roughly at 60 FPS the whole time. I would dip every now and then, about 57, 58, but overall, pretty much full speed experience. Metal Gear Solid 2 ran solid for me. Roughly 60 FPS. She dipped down to about 57 and goes slightly over 60 FPS.
It's the enemy. Hunt down.
Forgot to turn the music volume down on the game before recording, so I had to mute the clip, but the audio did run perfectly, and we're running at a solid 60 FPS. Hot Pursuit 2, I was getting great frame rates out of it, but the audio is a little crackly, and that may be a deal breaker to some. I personally don't like it myself. Soul Calibur 3, pretty much chilling at 60 FPS. Audio sounds good. I'm happy with the performance here.
You lose.
You pathetic cur.
9, 8.
Don't let your guard down, or you'll die.
Versus Samurai. Fight.
Tekken 4, running at full speed. Audio sounds great.
You win. Round 2.
And the last PS2 game in this test is Turok Evolution, running anywhere from 54 to 60 FPS on average. Audio sounds great, no stuttering. So there are PS3 games that will run on this device. A lot of them do not, however. I wanted to test out some of the ones that I personally like. Here we have Marvel vs. Capcom 3. A few seconds in, we're totally frozen, and it's not changing. So that was issue number 1. Issue number 2, because this really is pushing this device to its limit, it's got to compile the shaders quite often. So as you can see, walking through this corridor, we're going to get to the end of it. It's going to freeze up because now it needs to compile the shaders again. So the GPD Win Max is giving you pretty solid performance up to Gamecube, PS2, and 3DS. Once you go beyond that, PS3, Xbox 360, yes, there will be some lesser demanding games that will run, but for the most part, you're pushing the device to its very limits, and it's just going to be a pretty terrible experience. But for PS2, GameCube, 3DS, overall, pretty great experience, and with further tweaks in Dolphin especially, you'll get even better performance. In Citra, I got pretty solid performance running at 3x, but in some of the games where it struggled, you may consider going down to 2 or even 1 to get it up to full speed. And you also have to remember that you can technically connect an eGPU to this and boost your performance through the roof, but to me, that just doesn't make sense to get this device that's a portable gaming handheld and then connect an eGPU. I mean, it's a cool idea, and I love watching videos on it, but I don't think it's practical for everyone. On that note, I'm going to call this video a wrap. I hope this video was enjoyable, hope it was helpful, hope it helped you see what the GPD Win Max is capable of as far as emulation. So at this point though, it's either hold out and wait till these devices discount somewhat, or go for the GPD Win 3 or the Aya Neo. Those will give better performance across the board, so that's something to also consider. Thanks for watching everybody, and I hope everybody has a great day.